Hallo miteinander, I'm Geshady6 and this is Ghost Hunter Reimu. Last time we proved to be wilier than a nine-tailed fox, made it look so weak it might as well have had only two tails and be called miles per hour. The fourth stage from the set of 6 is the first one to not have any introductory cutscene. No matter, the story will advance when the time is right. So, remember when we were in the basement and I mentioned there was a level that played hijinks with the lighting? This is that place. Down the ladder we can see the effect in action. It's not as annoying as it could be, as Reimu as well as all the enemies still have their standard brightness. It's only the level design and background objects that will be harder to make out. The general rule for this effect is that the darkness intensifies the closer you are to the bottom end of a section. So, today's location could be another cellar from the looks of it. But we already had that. That would be lame. I believe it is actually the mansion's attic. Big difference. Life-changing for us. I assume that because there are outdoor areas on top of some sections, so the attic would be leading up to the rooftops. Makes sense. Enough about that now. We're having a steady start here. The opposition so far hasn't been too dangerous. I don't think we've even taken damage yet. But would you believe that I've been dreading this stage since the start of the Let's Play? Let me tell you something personal about it. You saw that in the stage select, the attic symbol was in the top row, right column. A player who doesn't know any better is likely to pick it second. So did I back then. It's how the average mind works. For a beginner, going to the attic as a second stage is nasty. There's an area later in it that was maddening for me. I am never going to forget it. It'll still take us several minutes to get there, so back to the here and now. You want to preemptively destroy the small ghost on the edge here, that one. He may seem unimportant, but he'll later annoy you during platforming if you don't. Also, down the next ladder, we can see a better example for the stage getting dark, pitch black almost. It can definitely lead to mistakes. For example, you might not see and walk right past a lamppost. Wink wink. You may also ignore and walk past the same lamppost a second time. Wink wink. There are indeed people who may do that because of the poor vision, and they'll be left with a massive ghost gauge. Let's not worry anymore about it. After all, we just had a big blot of ghostly sludge slam on our head. It's a good thing this game doesn't overthink things like I do, or else Reimu would never get that stuff out of her hair ever again. I'm telling you, riding this platform with just that one ghost still guarding the edge would have been terrible. The jump itself is tight enough without you colliding with any bullets on the way. Another stupid doll like so many others, but this one we will remember. Everyone, I introduce you to a different kind of Reimu. One sizzling with a field of power around her, and the skin tone of a corpse. She also speaks more belligerently with an inhuman voice, and furthermore assaults our senses with constant pulsating and blood splatter effects. This transformation is what happens when the ghost gauge maxes out. Yeah, it's what I've all ominously played up in past episodes. I hope it was worth the wait and didn't disappoint. Of course, this form serves a purpose, it's not just all looks. There are advantages and disadvantages to Reimu becoming possessed. I believe her spells are more effective now, and she definitely has a higher natural magic point regeneration, both from landing hits as well as collecting souls. There is also a super jump exclusive to this state, which you can activate by holding down and pressing the jump button. It's useful, and I'll show it to you eventually, but for now we've missed our chance. Fun's over, our ghost gauge has run out, and we are back to normal. Killing many enemies will sustain the transformation longer. After all, that's how you build up ghost gauge in the first place. But no matter how much you'll fight, you're going to revert back sooner or later. Alternatively, you can use a lamppost to get rid of the possession immediately if you don't want it. You might not. As I said, there are disadvantages to it, pretty hefty ones too. We'll talk about them when it gets relevant again. Don't think we've seen the last of Reimu's less presentable side. No sir. Anyway, this is the first time we've gone to the rooftops, as I said we would earlier. I think that is a pleasant sight to see. The stage wouldn't be very visually distinguishable from some of the others if it didn't have those parts. Gameplay-wise, it would still be my bane. We haven't seen the worst of it by far. These fireball enemies really haven't been the most fearsome, but in the way they were just placed, numerous, hard to reach and scattered, they can be relevant. As long as the level is still pretty tame, let's talk about a new purchase we made, the wave attack. We've swapped our default melee attack for it. You probably didn't notice because the wave attack looks very similar. There's only the subtle difference of a small shockwave to it, making it reach a little further. This doll living under a bridge can serve for demonstration. I don't think the last 4 strikes would have connected at that distance without the wave attack. It's certainly a useful ability to have, although not a high priority purchase in my opinion. We've got almost all the best stuff by now, so we don't need to be as picky anymore. Be wary of one thing. The wave attack only increases the range of standing stabs. Jump slashes are unaffected by it. It's time to be all scary and evil again, undead and loving it. Actually, I'm not a huge fan of the transformation playstyle wise. Off camera, I avoid it whenever I can. You can tell I'm not very used to having it, because right here I forgot all about the super jump. With it, we could have avoided all that blundering about with the Yoku block. It would have been a piece of cake to get up that ledge. I've decided to make an exception for this episode and embraced Reimu's schizophrenia, which is why we've made our second purchase for today, a special passive ability called Ghost Power. This makes it so that our ghost gauge fills up 30% quicker than normal. We can transform earlier and more often because of this. If you don't want to be possessed, you should of course stay far away from such an anti-power-up. Let us finally talk about the disadvantages, the reason why you would rather stay a good and pious shrine maiden. Watch our health bar closely here. That took away 2 hit points. Nothing does 2 damage usually. Yeah, possession doubles the damage you take, and that can be deadly. I don't want to take double damage, do you? In summary, transforming means gaining a better offense with a poorer defense as a trade-off. As you might have noticed, possession doesn't get cancelled by entering a new section. You could even fight a boss with it. If you're really scared of losing too much life, nothing stops you from just waiting it out. I wouldn't blame you, it's risky. I do like one cute detail about transforming. Reimu's mugshot in the lower left will change to a grimace while it lasts. Yes, that face does serve a purpose. It's not just there for the sake of it. The alcove to the right here seems to be completely irrelevant. I feel like there should have been a goodie in there, like a health potion or something. Come to think of it, there is not a single stationary item in the attic level, and there's something wrong and unbalanced about that. Know what my hunch is? That it's an oversight. BlueMica may have just forgotten to place any in this stage. The attic is already difficult on its own. An absence of pickups also adds to that in a very artificial way. Maybe that's why I had so much trouble with it initially, and still nowadays. We are not doing so great, and we'll have to rely on enemy drops to get back what we've lost. Apart from red souls, enemies may leave green souls, which will heal us, and yellow souls to restore magic points. Time for a secret, and this is a big one. I first found this after messing up the very first jump of the section, and I saw the hidden chamber while slowly falling down to my doom. Getting to it makes a massive difference, as the teleporter here allows us to basically play the section in reverse. We're going to make our way high above along the moving platforms here, and that lets us skip all the enemies below, for now. Of course we will wipe them out at some point, we have to. Anyways, the first time I ever got to this section, I had already used up my consumable and had only 2 hit points left. I died over and over again, most of the time to this blue lady ghost that we just killed. She is a huge pain when you're coming from the left side, just has a really advantageous position, and I had none of the spells we do now. They would have been a solution. As a result, I actually got a little frustrated with the game back then. I just couldn't do it and had to give up. I brought down the menu and chose to abort the stage. I played a different one in the hopes it would be more manageable. At least it was. Ghost Hunter Reimu is not an easy game. Perhaps not so tough that it would ever become notorious, but it can be fairly challenging at times. Now the time has come to hunt for all the enemies we avoided, thanks to the hidden teleporter. Despite all the fighting, we were really unlucky with drops. We couldn't get any of the health back that we assumed we would. We are in fact in more danger than we ever have been before. Of all things, it's right before the next boss too. A boss that is capable, more than the last, but also somewhat of a special snowflake. He is a little infamous for being the most poorly programmed, glitch-susceptible boss of the game. The chances for anything strange happening are still very low. We should be alright. The monologue of Reimu is slightly different here. She is especially confused at this doll's aura. I think BlueMica assumed this would be the first morphing doll people faced. What it turns into is no mythical animal for a change, but a magical mask depicting an Oni. Somebody stop it, and that somebody will be us. One of the most dangerous attacks of it are these pink maelstroms. They are homing only for the first few seconds, so lure them around until they lose that property, then make the jump over them. The homing maelstroms are not exclusive to the mask. We'll see them again even after it's gone. And gone it is, to oblivion. Please do not rage quit in such a case. Hit D on the keyboard and select the second option. That resets a section as if you had died. We have the same amount of health as when we entered. Even our consumable is back in our possession, as if nothing had happened. You know, I'm glad it did happen. I'm happy that we saw the boss bug out and flee the battlefield. If it hadn't, all my talk about glitchiness would have been moot trivia. It wouldn't have meant anything to us. But now it has become real and tangible. It's the second time I've experienced this in about a dozen attempts, and I've seen one other YouTuber where the mask also flew away. All in all, it's a rare occurrence. At 50% health, the mask loses its hair, or toupee maybe. I'm not exactly sure what that means for it, but I think it gets a little faster and more active. A second phase of sorts. The best chance to land hits, by the way, is when it flies in a fixed diamond shape. That allows you to land several jump slashes on it, as we just did. I'd say today's casualty was trickier to guess. The mask was based on the emotionally numb wearer of clown pants, Hata no Kokoro. If she were aware of her balloony attire, she'd put on the mask that expresses embarrassment. That wraps up quite a doozy of a stage. I'm Gesh86, this was Ghost Hunter Reimu, and next time we get ourselves into some grave situations. Bis bald!